How's it going, everyone? So today we're going to be discussing "The Curtain" by Snarky Puppy and the Metropole Orkest. So this was a piece. It took place in. I'll start by breaking down the venue and the performance, and then I'll break down my opinion on it. So the stage setup, you had the conductor and the electric bass and the percussion up there, and then you had the orchestra down here seated with the people, and the people were kind of interspersed. They all were wearing headphones except for a few exceptions. You could see some of them with the headphone tilted to the side, but they were all dressed formally. The performers were wearing white, and the audience was wearing just regular clothing. I noticed the orchestra was wearing more formal attire, and the other performers were wearing a little more casual attire. Not They were all really dressed up nice, but I would say the orchestra was more traditional, and the other performers, especially the ones with the electric and the percussion, they had a little more of a modern flair to it, and I thought that paralleled the combination of the traditional sounds of the orchestra with the modern sounds of those other elements that were incorporated into that. And in talking about that, I would say the performance forces. I'll mention a lot of them here. They had the French horn, the piano, the synthesizer, the keyboard, the violin, the electric bass, the flugelhorn. You had the drum set. You had the trombones, the xylophone, the tuba, the trumpet, the clarinet, the flute. Um, you even had the ratchet there, which was the pencil sharpener looking thing. The zzz. I thought that was a very unique addition to the music there. Um, and in the venue, it honestly had a little bit of a city street side look to it. It looked very grand and maximalist. It looked like it had a lot of echo to it, a lot of reverb, and that kind of helps with the orchestra element and the duplifying of the duplication of the sound. It There's already so many instruments in there, but you have all the walls there, and it kind of bounces all those sounds back, and it makes it all sound that much more maximalist. A lot of the performers seemed very passionate, especially the man with the electric bass. Some of the guys on the synths, you could see them really getting into it, and the percussion. Everyone was really enjoying themselves. They seemed to enjoy what they were doing. They didn't seem to engage the audience too directly. They definitely made some eye contact at some points. You noticed during the piano solo, um, the man was looking at the audience there, and I thought that was a added to the intimacy of the environment. It wasn't a full, I wouldn't say it was a packed venue, but I thought it was appropriately filled for the occasion. Everyone was very respectful. They weren't necessarily dancing, but you could see them at certain points go from sitting, still in appreciation of the music, and then there were certain points where you have a lot more of the syncopation going on with the swing and everything, where they started to move a lot more. They started to clap with their hands a little bit, start to nod along, move along with the beat. But then, say, especially with the piano part, you could see them kind of get more somber and really get into the emotion of those minor chords that he was playing there. And that leads into the next thing. There were a lot of shifts in chords, in tempo, even in meter. Um, so there was a lot of key changes there. You could tell as you went from some of the orchestral components to, say, the piano moment there. They were using a lot of major chords over with the orchestra on a lot of points, and it made for an uplifting sound. But then you got to the piano section, he was using a lot of minor chords, and that kind of brought the energy down in a way. Not in a bad way, but just made an emotional roller coaster, made it a very dynamic piece. As it picked up in certain points, the tempo increased, and then it slowed down at certain points and let it breathe. And the dynamic between it made for a very interesting journey. I really appreciated it. It was a combination of different genres, different elements of jazz. Um, you had funk elements, you had orchestra elements. It almost reminded me of Chick Corea. I listened to Return to Forever, and it had a lot of experimental elements that I thought paralleled a lot of the things that I found in here. And it was an instrumental piece. There was there was no vocals there, but honestly, with some of the horns it's almost like they're singing to you, and the bass itself, the way that they play, it's almost like it sings to you in the way that they play, and they make it sing. They make it sing. You know that term, yeah. Um, but some of my favorite parts were the solos. I really loved that electric bass solo, and I really loved the piano solo. I thought those had so much emotion in it, and honestly, I thought the orchestra kind of supported the journey and was kind of the ocean, and sometimes there would be a wave, and you would experience these that bit of stillness with the piano, and it was very dynamic, a very dynamic thing. I couldn't count the particular meter. I did notice that the meter did change because I did find some of the 4/4 time going on, but I had a hard time counting the other meters when it shifted off of that. But there was definitely some shifts in meters I noticed. It was hard to track with all the jazzy elements and the syncopation. Uh, let's see here. Yeah, I thought it was the soloists often improvised. You could see the orchestra, they had sheet music, so when they're all playing together, that was not improvised. But I felt like with the electric bass and the piano, they did not have sheet music in front of them, and they had more liberties to take with what they did, and so I feel like they did a little more improvisational work there. um, yeah, that I think that's about all. So it was definitely unusual to see the orchestra combined with the electric elements, but I definitely appreciated it, and I loved it. So have a great day, guys. I'm glad I just kept it under 7 minutes here. So take it easy. See you next time.